He knocked his cup off the tray and stared at me like he wanted me to pick it up with my teeth. 2 fingers, slow tip, then that look like I was the one who'd spilled it. The TV blared, his roommate slept, and my cart sat in the doorway while call bells chimed down the hall like a bad song I couldn't turn off. I had wipes in one pocket, a list of vitals in the other, and no slack left in my day. They'd warned me about him the first day on that wing. He's a real fucking charmer, the charge nurse said. Everybody had a story. He'd slapped cups out of hands, spit into a bib, and demanded we fix it, called aides names until they cried in the supply closet. He wasn't big. He was thin, oxygen most of the time, lungs full of junk. But he could still hurt you. Not with fists, with control. With making every simple task take forever and then acting like you're the idiot. I picked it up. I rinsed it. I filled it. I set it back. He slapped it again. Water hit my shoes. He laughed a little, then coughed and hacked phlegm into his bib loud, wet like he wanted the sound to crawl under my skin. I wiped the floor because if somebody slips, it turns into paperwork. And paperwork is what this place cares about. They'll pin a fall on you before they admit they scheduled 2 aides for 30 residents. He stuck his hand out for the cup like a king, then jerked it away and rasped water again like I hadn't just done it twice. I filled it again anyway, because that's what you do when you still think doing the right thing matters. He slapped it harder. Cup hit the rail, spilled across the sheets. He grinned like he'd won. Then he started in, cussing, telling me I was useless, telling me he'd get me fired, telling me he knew the administrator. His eyes stayed on me, steady, unblinking, waiting for me to flinch. I wanted to snap back, but tone gets you written up faster than neglect. I've seen it. Families complain, managers nod, and somehow you're the problem. So I swallowed it and kept moving. Something in me went flat anyway. I looked at the wet bed, the spit, the cup on its side, and all I could think was how many other people I had to toilet before lunch. Mrs. D was already yelling for help. Mr. P was trying to climb out of bed again. The desk phone was ringing. I walked out of his room, and I didn't go back to make it right. He hit his call light nonstop after that. He'd wait until I was in another room and then start up, so I'd come out with my gloves half on, and he'd be staring down the hall at me, smiling. The roommate kept pretending to sleep, like silence made him invisible. I told the nurse he kept throwing water and needed fluids. She didn't even look up from her computer. Just chart it, she said. That's always the answer. Chart it. Make it a box. We get drilled on intake monitoring in yearly trainings with a little video and a little quiz, and then we go right back to a hall where you can't even take a piss without someone screaming your name. Around noon, I went back in because I had to change his trash. His mouth was already doing that dry, clicking sound, tongue sticking, lips smacking like tape. The skin around his lips looked raw. He pointed at the pitcher family had brought, the one he couldn't reach, and he stared at me like I owed him. I took the cup, rinsed it, filled it halfway, set it down. He didn't even drink. He slapped it with the back of his hand so it splashed my leg. Then he coughed and hocked more crap into his bib like punctuation. That's when I stopped. Not with a speech. I just didn't do the next refill. I picked the cup up off the floor, rinsed it, set it back with barely any water, and slid it a little farther away. When he snapped his fingers and reached, I turned and tied the trash bag instead. He swore harder and tried to sit up, face tightening like it hurt. He couldn't get all the way. He fell back and stared at the ceiling like he was trying to outlast me. I stopped refilling it after that. I charted refused fluids because the box was there and my pen worked. Offered. Refused. Resident educated. Will reoffer. 3 clicks to turn thirst into non-compliance. I wrote a little note too. Agitated. Refused X2. Will monitor. Monitor. Like I was a camera. Then I took his call light down and hung it behind the bed rail so it wouldn't catch my eye. Button faced the wall. Out of sight. I told myself if he really needed help, he'd yell. He always yelled. A little later, the nurse rolled by doing her med cart and asked, quick, he drinking at all? I didn't even look up from my stack of briefs. Refused, I said. She nodded and kept moving because she had 14 meds due and her own charting to cover her ass. That was it. That was the whole conversation. The clicking got worse through the afternoon. He tried to talk and only got air. His hand started doing little grabs at the sheets like he was trying to pull water out of fabric. At one point, he made this sound like a whimper and then got mad about it and slammed his fist into the rail, weak but loud. I kept moving. I kept answering other bells because there's always another bell and it's always louder than the one you don't want to hear. Every time I passed his doorway, I looked at the floor on purpose. A coworker asked if he was acting up and I said, "He's refusing." It came out easy. She laughed and said, "Good," and walked off. Another aide overheard and muttered, "You can't do that," like she was talking about stealing pudding cups. Then she shrugged and went back to her side because none of us wanted another fight on a day that already sucked. He grabbed my wrist once when I leaned in to tie the trash bag. His fingers felt light like cheap plastic, but his nails still dug in. He pulled, mouth open, eyes wide, trying to force something out. No words came, just breath and that dry smell like old pennies. For a second, I thought he was actually scared. Then he squeezed harder, and I felt that familiar hate again, like he was still trying to take. I yanked free, so hard his arm flopped back on a mattress. I told him not to touch me. It came out cold. He stared like he hated me with his whole body. I backed out and shut the door harder than I meant to. The latch snapped. I washed my hands until they burned. I went to lunch. Lunch was me chewing fast with my back to the room, like I could hide from the building. Somebody joked about letting nature take its course with the difficult ones. Somebody else said, "Shut up, you'll get us all fired." They argued for about 30 seconds, and then the microwave beeped, and that was that. 15 minutes later, we were all back out there, smiling at families. When I came back down the hall, his door was closed. The call bell panel outside his room blinked, same as always. I walked past anyway. Near the end of shift, things got quiet in that fake way when dinner trays go out and everyone settles. I rolled my cart by his room and realized I couldn't hear the clicking anymore. I paused at the doorway. His roommate sat upright, eyes fixed on the foot of the bed like he was trying to disappear. The water cup sat empty on the tray. The pitcher was still full on the dresser. The oxygen tubing was off his face and looped around his ear. His mouth hung open a little, tongue pale and dry. His chest barely moved. The TV light made his skin look gray. I didn't go in. I pushed my cart away and told myself the nurse would check him. I told myself he'd refused. I told myself I was just an aide. I told myself whatever kept my feet moving, because if I stopped and went in and held that cup to his mouth, I'd have to admit I could have done it hours ago. 10 minutes later, I heard running. The nurse hit his room and bent over him. Someone yelled for the cart. The roommate started crying, low and ashamed. I stood in the hall and watched the nurse do the routine like we all do when it's already done. When the nurse found him slumped, she ran the routine. She called his name. She checked his pulse. She looked at my notes. She nodded like it made sense. "Refused," she said, and that one word covered everything. Family showed up and cried and thanked the staff. They hugged the nurse. They smoothed his hair. They said he'd been stubborn and so hard. One of them picked up the cup and set it on the tray like it belonged there. The wife looked at the pitcher and said, "He never drank enough," like it was a bad habit, not a need. I stood in the back and kept my face neutral. Nobody asked how long he'd been without water. Nobody checked my box. They stripped the bed. They rolled him out. The room went quiet again, ready for the next person. I clocked out and drove home with the radio off. I drank a glass of water so fast I choked and laughed at myself in my kitchen like that was a joke. I still pour drinks for other residents. I still smile. I still feel the moment my pen hit that refused line like a switch flipping. She moved in with a kid, a beat-up car, and a loud laugh. People stared because the building likes quiet. She didn't. This place runs on little rules nobody wrote down. Don't slam the front door. Don't let your music leak. Don't make the hallway smell like anything. The kind of building where a good morning feels like an accusation. She parked crooked, dragged a mattress up the stairs alone, laughed too loud at whatever was on her phone, and her kid followed her like a puppy, diaper sagging, shirt inside out, rubbing his face on the railing like it was normal. I watched from my peephole like a creep. Our building is old and bitter. Everybody knows everybody's business and pretends they don't. People whisper in the elevator, then type essays online about community standards like they're running a little country. The courtyard out back is where the smokers huddle and the dog people let their leashes go slack. The one patch of grass everyone claims like a shared backyard. Her kid loved it. He'd toddle out barefoot and slap puddles, try to eat gravel, fall, get up, fall again. One afternoon, he bent over by the bench, and I snapped a photo from my window. Zoomed in quick, diaper low, shirt twisted, hair a mess, knees dirty. She was a few steps away, turned toward her phone, talking fast. One frame, and it looked like she didn't give a shit. That night, I made a burner account for the community group. New email, random name, no profile picture, the whole coward kit. I didn't write abuse. I didn't write anything that would make me responsible. I wrote concern. I posted the photo and asked if anyone else had seen the little boy unsupervised and maybe neglected. I used that soft voice people use when they want blood. The comments hit fast, like they were waiting. Call someone. Document it. Poor baby. People who shouldn't have kids. Someone said they'd seen worse and tagged the landlord. I sat there refreshing like I'd pulled a slot machine and it kept paying out. After that, my brain started hunting. Trash bags by her door. Photo. Takeout boxes stacked in the hall. Photo. Kid barefoot in the stairwell again. Photo. Her yelling on the phone in the concrete stairwell because somebody didn't show up for their shift. I recorded 10 seconds from behind my own door, clipped out the part where she lowered her voice, kept the part where she sounded out of control. I posted those slices with captions like pattern and just documenting. I clipped 10 seconds, cut out the context, and let people fill in the rest with their own hate. The building ate it up. People started staring at her in the lobby. People stopped holding the door. Someone left a sticky note on her mat about quiet hours, like she was a college roommate. She snapped at an older guy in the hall when he complained about running feet. She told him to mind his own fucking business, loud, and he marched straight to the group and wrote a post about aggression. That became my fuel. I chimed in from the burner. Thank you for speaking up. We have to protect children. I watched the likes climb, and it did something gross to me, like I'd found a way to matter without doing anything real. When she finally saw the posts were about her, she went online under her real name and fought like hell. She argued in comments. She called people nosy bitches. She said she worked doubles. She didn't have family. She was doing her best. And if anyone had a problem, they could say it to her face instead of creeping on her kid. Then she threatened lawsuits. She wrote that she'd started saving usernames. She wrote that somebody was stalking her son and she was going to find out who. The group went feral. They love a mother who doesn't bow. They love her even more when she swears, because it makes the concern look justified. I screenshotted everything. Every curse word, every all caps line, every I'll sue, every stop filming my kid. I sent it to the landlord like I was helping. I wrote a neat email with bullet points. Noise, trash in common areas, aggressive behavior, possible neglect observed. I attached my photos like they were exhibits. I attached the 10-second clip like it was a confession. The landlord replied with bland corporate comfort, promised to address the matter, and I felt this slick satisfaction, like I just won something. So I filed a report too. I didn't lie big. I stacked little facts until they looked like a pattern. Bare feet, dirty shirt, trash outside the unit, loud phone fights, seems overwhelmed, child appears unkempt. I timed it for a week she worked doubles, because those are the weeks she came home late with the kid asleep on her shoulder, keys shaking, and she missed calls. I spaced out follow-ups so it didn't look like one person obsessing. I changed my wording. I made it feel like a chorus. A caseworker showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. Clipboard, calm face, that careful posture like they're trying not to scare anyone. I saw them in the lobby while the mom talked fast, hands moving, jaw tight. 2 days later, another one came. Then a wellness check. Cops parked out front for 20 minutes, no lights, just sitting there like a threat. The whole building watched through blinds and peepholes, then ran to the group to perform concern. I posted from my burner about hoping the child is safe and kept my real name clean. After that, schools started sniffing around too. The kid was supposed to start a program, and suddenly there were calls about paperwork, attendance, home visits. I heard her in the stairwell one morning, voice cracking, saying she couldn't keep leaving work for random visits. She was going to get fired, and whoever kept doing this to her could go straight to hell. I recorded a few seconds of it because by then my hand moved on its own. Every time she raised her voice, someone reported. Every time the kid cried, somebody else in the building swore they'd heard abuse through the wall. Then, the kid stopped showing up in the courtyard. No bare feet, no bable, just smokers by the dumpster and that bench sitting empty. I saw new notices taped to her door, then ripped down and taped back up. I heard her arguing on the phone with someone who kept saying compliance, like her life was a form. In the group, people started asking where the kid was like they were entitled to updates. I started listening for him through the wall, like silence was proof. One night she came in late and just broke. Not a scream, not a tantrum, a raw, choking sob through the drywall like she'd run out of anger and only had pain left. I sat on my couch with my phone in my hand and didn't post it, not because I grew a conscience overnight, but because I got scared. She'd started accusing one of you sick fucks of stalking her kid. She said she had screenshots. She said she'd go door to door. For 2 days, I flinched every time someone knocked anywhere in the building. A few days later, her door sat open with boxes in the hall and a mattress leaning against the wall. She hauled stuff out alone, face tight, jaw working like she was chewing glass. Nobody helped. People just watched and acted like that was community. The kid followed her, and he didn't make noise at all. That was the worst part. He used to squeal at birds. Now he just walked behind her with a little backpack and a plastic bag of toys, eyes flat, like he'd learned the safest way to exist was to take up less space. She dropped a box, and something inside cracked. She froze for a second, swallowed, kept moving. She loaded the beat-up car in chunks, wiping her nose with the back of her wrist, moving like she had a clock on her back. Right before she got in, her eyes dragged across the building's windows like she could feel all of us staring. I kept my blinds half closed like a coward. She buckled the kid in gentle, shut the door gentle, stood with her hand on the roof like she needed the car to hold her up, then drove off like she was leaving a fire. I went inside and opened the community group like it was a normal morning. People posted like they'd won something. Cleaner building, safer. We did it. They speculated she'd lost custody, like it was gossip, like it was a prize. I still have the screenshots saved in a dumb text file on my laptop. Like that makes me a witness instead of the one who loaded the gun. People celebrated in the group. Cleaner building, safer building. I hit like and kept scrolling. He shoved my sister at the lake party and laughed when she stumbled. I saw it. She didn't. She kept smiling because she hated scenes. It wasn't even a big shove. 2 fingers between her shoulder blades while she stepped off the dock, flip-flop half on, half off. She wobbled, caught herself, did that tight little laugh she uses at work when a customer's being a dick. He grinned like he'd landed a joke. Everyone else kept their vibe because nobody wants to be the person who ruins the day. I watched her swallow it. I watched him watch her. That's what pissed me off more than shove. He did it to test her. He'd been doing that all summer, showing up in our group like he got issued an invite, acting like playful means you can touch anybody whenever you want. I'd already told her, quietly, we could leave. She shook her head and sipped her drink and stared past me. She doesn't like conflict. She'll bleed out to avoid a scene. So I stayed, jaw clenched, hands empty, waiting for him to do it again. He made sure he did. He started in with the usual shit. Splash people, yanked at ankles, dunked the guy who didn't want it, then laughed when the guy came up coughing and swearing. People told him to chill. He acted offended, like he was the victim of everyone being soft. He kept circling back toward my sister, bumping her shoulder, leaning too close, flicking water at her chest like he owned her reaction. I stepped in once. Not heroic, just enough to block him. I said low, "Stop touching her." He smirked like I'd told him a secret. A friend grabbed my arm and told me to relax because it's a party. That's the thing. People will grab the person who's about to snap, not the person doing the snapping. My sister shot me this look like, "Please don't." So I swallowed it because I always swallow it. He used that. He shoved my sister's drink hand so it splashed her shorts. He did a fake apology, hands up, laughing, then bumped her again like an accident. She flinched, then forced that same stupid smile, eyes shiny but hard. She muttered it was fine. I felt my face get hot. I wanted to grab him by the throat and walk him off the dock. Instead, I walked down to the edge and stared out because if I snapped, she'd blame herself for starting something. That's the kind of family we are. We internalize everything until it rots. Later, he swam out past the rope line, the faded buoys, like rules were for other people. He put on a show, waving his arms, yelling, splashing. He grabbed at legs like he was trying to pull people into his mood. Someone called him an asshole. He laughed and did that fake drowning thing, exaggerated, making it a bit. Like the idea of drowning was hilarious. Then he stopped clowning. It was subtle, which is why I clocked it. I've been watching him the whole time, waiting for another shove, another accident. His arms changed. The splashing turned into short slaps, like he was trying to catch the surface. His kicks looked wrong, like his legs forgot how to work. He tried to swing back toward the rope and didn't get closer. His face did this quick shift, smug to confused to scared. He lifted his chin, opened his mouth, swallowed, and went under. No dramatic scream. No movie flailing. Just down. I stood on the dock with my shoes on and my phone in my hand. I didn't run. I didn't yell. I didn't point. I watched the ripples spread and fade. My brain went cold and practical in the grossest way. I counted seconds. I checked who was closest. I saw two guys waist deep, half drunk, not paying attention. I saw my sister behind me, still trying to pretend everything was normal. And I felt this ugly calm settle over me, like my body finally had permission to do nothing. I could have fixed it fast. One shout and heads would have turned. Somebody would have sprinted in. I knew that. That's why I didn't shout. I didn't freeze from fear. I chose stillness because it felt like justice, and I hate myself for how clean it felt. A few seconds later, someone else noticed. A girl screamed his name, and everything snapped to chaos. Drinks hit the boards. People surged. Someone yelled the call, 911. Two guys dove in hard, all panic and muscle, and hauled him back like a heavy bag that kept slipping away. They dragged him onto the dock by his arms. He coughed up foam and lake scum and lay there shivering, not even crying, just shaking like his body couldn't decide if it wanted to keep going. His eyes rolled around like he was looking for the person who was supposed to save him. I stayed back. I didn't want him to find me in that crowd. I watched my sister's face instead. She was white as paper, hand over her mouth, eyes locked on him, horrified in that pure way people get when they see consequences show up at a place that was supposed to be fun. People argued immediately because that's what people do when they're scared. One guy blamed weeds. Another blamed alcohol. Someone snapped that none of that mattered. He almost died. Someone else muttered he had it coming. A friend told them both to shut the fuck up. For a minute, it felt like the whole dock might tip from everyone crowding the same spot. When he started coughing again, everyone went quiet. The sound was disgusting, wet and desperate. Somebody slapped his back too hard. Somebody shoved a phone in his face like recording meant helping. I wanted to knock that phone into the dirt. The EMTs took their time getting there, or it felt like they did. Minutes stretch when you're watching a person fight for air on a wooden dock. When they finally arrived, they pushed people back and asked questions like it was just another Saturday. They checked his pulse, put oxygen on him, told him not to move. He tried to talk, and it came out broken. While they worked, people kept asking who saw him first. Not even in a blame way, more like they needed a story that made sense. Someone pointed toward the dock and said I'd been up there the whole time. Another person said, "Yeah, you were right there." My stomach dropped. I could have told the truth. I could have said I saw it early. I could have admitted I waited. Instead, I lied without even thinking, like my mouth had already built the escape route. When they asked who saw him first, I said I was in the bathroom. I said I heard the yelling and ran out like everyone else. Nobody challenged it. People love a simple timeline. They were too busy being shaken, too busy acting like they'd all done everything right. My sister didn't look at me. She kept staring at him like she could will his lungs to behave. He survived. They loaded him up and drove off. The party died right there. People sat on towels in silence, staring at their hands, posting vague shit online about crazy day like it was content. One girl kept saying we should report it, like the lake was a crime scene. A guy snapped back that there's nothing to report, he's alive. Everyone just wanted the story to end. After that, he stopped coming around. At first, he did the tough guy act online. A couple posts about almost dying, like it made him interesting. Then he vanished. No more showing up at our spots like he owned them. People said he was embarrassed. People said he was traumatized. I didn't ask. I didn't want to hear a version where he's the victim. My sister never got shoved again. She never said his name either, not directly. She just got quieter at parties, more jumpy when someone got too close, more "I'm tired," even when it was early. She started texting me when she got home. She started asking who else was going to be there before she agreed to anything. She still hates scenes, but now she avoids the stage entirely. A week later, she asked if I'd seen what happened before everyone started screaming. She didn't look at me when she asked, like she knew what the answer would cost. I said no. I said I missed it. She nodded and let it die, because that's her. She lets things die to keep the peace. A month after, I saw him at a gas station. He looked smaller, hoodie up even though it wasn't cold. He kept his eyes down, moved fast. I felt my heart punch my ribs like I'd been caught stealing. For a second, I thought he'd look up and recognize me. He didn't. He paid and left. A while after, one of the guys from that day got drunk and made a joke about it, like, "You were posted up on the dock, man. You basically had front row seats." Everyone laughed the way people laugh when they don't want to feel anything. I laughed too loud, and my sister stared at me like she wanted to ask something but didn't. I went home and threw up, not from booze, from the fear that my face gave me away. And I keep replaying my own stillness. Not as coughing, not the foam. Me, standing there deciding, tasting that calm, feeling time pass and not stopping it. I keep that moment stored like a clean tool. I didn't push him. I didn't hold him down. I just waited, and that was enough.